Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. DCL podcast fans, it's that time of the year where the goose and goalies are out flying the midnight skies, and we're about to talk about Disney's Halloween on the High Seas. And to do that with me this year is one of Halloween's biggest fans, all the way down to Florida. How you doing today, Christy?
You know, how is it that I ended up recording this episode with you?
I don't know. Nova did it with me last year. I love these little episodes talking about Halloween on the High Seas and very maritime cruises, where we kind of touch on what these sailings offer. And I know that Nova is much more of a bigger Halloween fan than you are.
That is true. But you know what? I like a good Mickey pumpkin.
You do. I mean, Halloween with Disney is kind of fun, right? It's not the spooky, scary stuff that people think about Universal, although I've never been to Universal Horror Nights or anything like that.
I will never go to Universal Horror Nights. I'm putting that on record. I mean, I don't think anybody that listens to this podcast even thinks that I would go. The Headless Horseman was scary to me.
It is scary, and it's actually one of my favorite moments with Vicky.
It's literally everybody's favorite moment.
Well, I think some people like the dancing grave takers
shovels.
with their shovels.
Don't like that either. Don't like ghosts.
Either.
And it looks like ghosts, like dead ghost walkers.
I love it. First time I saw the Headless Horseman was actually at Disneyland, when you used to be able to go to the Halloween party and it was free. Could you believe it?
Versus you can't possibly get tickets and you pay a ton of money now.
I know. Now they do the Oogie Boogie Bash, but they were doing I keep saying Vicky's Not So Scary party. Who is Vicky? Who is this Vicky? Mickey's Not So Scary out in Florida, but they still had like 1 or 2 years when our kids are younger, where you could actually go trick-or-treating and everything else in Disneyland. It was a lot of fun. So, but I digress. Today, we are going to talk about Halloween on the High Seas. Christy, have you been on Halloween on the High Seas sailing?
Yeah, we went last year and the year before, I believe.
What's funny is this is the one that we've done the most. We've done one on the Dream. We've done one on the Wonder. We've got the Magic book this year. And then On Awake and I are going to go back on the Magic next year. And to be complete, I'm going to be way up front and say that, and I think I said this in our last podcast when I talked to Wes, the DCL dude, and Chris, the concierge, that actually the very maritime sailings are my favorite, but I do love a good Halloween party and Halloween on the High Seas as well.
I just like hearing you say maritime is your favorite.
I know, it puts a smile on your face. All right, well, let's jump into it. Halloween on the High Seas Sailings help you and your family celebrate the spectacular time of year on most sailings departing late September through Halloween. Some of the stuff I'm going to read from the website, so that's not how I normally speak, but hopefully not. They feature the famous Halloween tree in the main atrium, along with decorations, not so scary activities, eerie entertainment, and fun holiday themed food and drinks.
You know, there's going to be a cupcake you can buy.
It's not going to taste very good.
No,
but darn it, it's going to look good, isn't it?
You know, Dave is always like, why are these cupcakes so sweet? Why? and every now and then he'll like get the desire to buy one again, and then like I can't have them. So to me, right, I don't know any different. But he's like, why can't they make these like taste better?
You know, I've never been a frosting person, but every now and then you find like a good wedding cake or something like that. If you get a wedding or something like that, where they really do a good job with the frosting. And if Disney could figure that out, where it's just not this sugar centric thing, I think I'd be all over it.
It's like that whippy frosting that you can get.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
so
this is not a podcast about frosting, although we could make it one, I suppose.
We could. And unlike Disney World, where Mickey's Not So Scary has been going on now for like a month and a half now. It started like mid-July.
Not true, but it has been going on for a week.
We'll talk about that just quick at the end if you have any thoughts about Walt Disney World, what's going on down there. But the Halloween on the High Seas sailings do not begin until September 9th. The first one is going to be September 9th on the Disney Magic out of Miami. And it's going to feature stops at Nassau and Castaway Cay. And the sailings will continue from that point, September 9th, all the way up to October 31st, believe it or not.
And I think it's usually sooner because typically the Halloween on the High Seas on the 3 and 4 night cruises is always on the 4 night after the Labor Day cruise because they're always putting the pumpkins up when I'm getting off the cruise. However, this year, DVC is taking over the ship that week for their member cruise, which we will do a podcast on in the future. We have some guests lined up, some really cool guests lined up to come on for that show. So I wonder if that's why it's going to be later for everyone else.
I'm not. So is that on the Magic, the DVC, or is it on?
It's on the Wish.
On the Wish. Okay. I'm excited about that one, to be able to hear about that as well. So yeah, so the first sailing is going to be September 9th, which is just a couple of weeks away on the Disney Magic. As we said, we'll kind of go through each one of the ships, what they have planned a little bit, and then we'll talk about some of the specifics of what you can expect on a Halloween on the High Seas Sailing. So first off, let's kick it off with the beautiful Disney Dream, which is still sailing around Europe right now. She's going to be getting ready to do her transatlantic in September, and she will feature Halloween sailings once she gets back to New York up to Bermuda. And then she has one-off sailing to Canada as well. The Fantasy is going to be out of Port Canaveral with sailings to the Eastern and Western Caribbean. Nothing new there that I saw. And I'll let you touch on the Wish, Christy, since that's your ship of choice out there in the Florida Port Canaveral area.
Can I just tell our listeners how you described the Wish? The ye old rust bucket. Does the same old itineraries to Nassau and Castaway Cay. No, the 3 and 4 night sailings, I mean, of course they're doing their same thing because that's what they do. But so obviously they will squeeze a Halloween on the high seas, even on the 3 night sailings.
And actually, I joke about the Wish a little bit, but she is a beautiful ship. And I don't remember seeing much about the Halloween sailings last year and how she was decorated. Do you remember, Christy?
She had her big tree. That was, I think slightly different than the other trees, but I will be on. I'm sure somebody will post a picture before, but I am going to be on mid-October where I'll get to see the tree decorated and we'll get to experience it. So I'll at least do like a snippet trip report when we come back from that.
And now I take it back because now I do remember that they do the pumpkins on the pumpkin tree, and it's kind of themed off of Cinderella's carriage, right?
Oh, maybe.
Do you remember that? Yeah. I'm not gonna give it off for there, but the pumpkin comes alive and tells a story. I'm not sure if the pumpkin or the tree does in that case, but they definitely talk
wasn't it a little creepy?
It was a little creepy, I think, or something like that. Well, the ones on the regular ships are a little bit creepy as well too. But I think, in all honesty, that Disney Wish sailing, if you can, pair that in with Mickey's Not So Scary over at Walt Disney World, that makes for a fun, week vacation down in the Florida area.
Which a lot of the people in my cruise group are doing.
So, you eat your magic or your Halloween, theming in the parks, and then also when you head out on the Disney Wish as well. So let's jump back to the Magic. The Magic is actually going to be sailing out of Miami to begin with, out to the Bahamas, and then she transitions to one of your favorite cruises, a 14-night Panama Canal cruise from Miami to San Diego, and then she'll be doing sailings out of San Diego down to Mexico's Baja Peninsula and on a wake. And actually, one of her friends and husbands are going with us this year to experience the Disney Magic for the first time, and also sailing on a Halloween on the High Seas Sailing. So we'll have a report back on that one.
That'll be fun.
We won't go into it, but I wonder what kind of extra stuff they might do on a long 14-day sailing to the Panama Canal. Probably not too much, huh?
No.
Yeah. All right. One thing that I did want to point out, and I think this is kind of cool.
Let me preface it. It's not too much related to the Halloween portion, but they do some really cool stuff on that ship. And actually, I just sent somebody a blog post that I wrote. It's 1,000 years old, but if you search packyourpixiedust.com and Panama Canal Cruise, you can read the different things that they do on this is obviously not an episode about the Panama Canal Cruise, but you could read the different things they do on the Panama Canal Cruise. So at least if you're on that sailing, you can get excited about it.
No, that's a good point there, because often they'll have, people come on and talk about the Panama Canal itself. So when we say that there wouldn't be too much added, we were talking more about just Halloween on it, other than
right. But I'm not even referring to them giving the great lecture that are amazing on the Panama Canal. I'm talking about adults can sleep in the kids clubs, and they do character photos of all of the 8 characters at one time, and they do some really cool special things that they can't get away with doing. Not get away with, but there's not enough time to do it on a shorter cruise. So, and yes, you can learn all about the Panama Canal, which is super fascinating, and you should go to that, but that's not like one of the special things during the cruise.
And if you would like to learn more about the Panama Canal from Christy, you go all the way back to episode 43, Christy's Panama Canal trip report on the Disney Wonder. Oh my gosh, I would. You should go back.
We should listen to that again.
I wonder how we sound.
And Lake fixed our website, so you can actually go to dclpodcast.com now and type in episode 43, and it will pop up like in the search bar. So we're trying to make things a little bit easier.
And if you want to hear a really crazy one, a good friend of the show, Sarah, over on Twitter, joined us as well. March 6, 2020 sailing number 139 on the Panama Canal. And that sailing was the one that ended with the Disney Wonder in San Diego as the whole cruise line shut down. And that was the last, I think, was that the last sailing, or was it the Fantasy was the last actual sailing?
Think it possibly was. And all the ports like kept like closing and saying you can't come in.
Yeah.
Or at least a couple. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
So look at our search bars working.
It is. So episode 139 or episode 43, if you want to talk about the Panama Canal. Okay, jumping back into Halloween, though. They do have a really cool port adventure, and it actually sold out really quickly on our sailing of the Magic going down to Ensenada, where in Ensenada, guests can book a Mexican Halloween Day of the Dead celebration port adventure. You get to learn about the ancient Day of the Dead tradition, a traditional celebration, which is really a traditional celebration of life. Don't kill me, but I still have not seen Coco. I've seen bits and parts of it, but if you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can follow along some of the themes if you watch Coco. You also can participate in.
We all have to watch Coco, though. Excuse me to interrupt. Before the treasure, because I'm fairly certain, right, that there's going to be something Coco related on that ship. So we all have to like brush up before that ship comes out.
I'm gonna laugh when really the only Coco related thing is the hot cocoa.
Oh God, please don't, Steve.
Everybody's excited about Coco, and it's just some hot cocoa up there on the pool deck for those cool sailings. I digress. Okay, everybody can participate in a hands-on workshop where kids will be able to decorate their own celebration cookies, and everyone will be able to celebrate their own, or everybody will be able to decorate their own candy skull. I know that's something you would put right on the shelf behind you, your own decorated candy skull, right, Christy?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yep.
And then visit a shrine and learn about Katrina and the underworld of, I think it's Hybalba. I'm not. I think that's not how Anawik said you should pronounce it in Spanish. And many more
Chibalda isn't an X like a chi, anyway. Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're sorry.
All right, Xibalba and many more Mexican legends. This port adventure sold out really quick on our sailing. So if it's something that you're interested in, if you're going on one of those Magic sailings, take a look at it and look for it next year if you're going to be going on 2024, because the 2024 sailings, Halloween on the High Seas sailings, are already on sale now.
Excellent.
And the last ship we'll talk about is the Disney Wonder. She will be in dry dock after her Alaska sailings this year. Then she's going to be getting ready to sail to Hawaii and down to Australia. And so she actually has no Halloween on the High sailings in 2023 or 2024. So the Wonder will not be.
Isn't she still a mystery for 2024?
Well, no.
There's a hole, I thought.
She comes back. Now I'm totally drawing a blank as to when she goes. She goes back to Vancouver, and that's where it stops. And we're not sure where she's going to go from there.
See, cool.
All right. Let's jump into some of the activities. Christy, you want to start with those?
Yeah. So guests are encouraged to dress up throughout the cruise. And one thing to note is Disney did just send out emails last week to everybody booked on Halloween on the High Seas sailings to sort of remind guests of these policies. You can also look it up online, but guests, adults and children alike, are allowed to dress up. As reminders, though, they have to be tasteful. You cannot bring anything that is like a toy gun or resembles a toy gun or a sword allowed on the ship. And I would say the only caveat to the sword is the toy swords that basically are sold for pirate night. So there's those that they're allowed because they sell them on the ship. So just be careful with that. And then face masks that hide your face, as part of your costume, can only be worn when standing still taking photos with your family or your characters. So you cannot walk the ship with a face mask that would cover your entire face. And then the Halloween tree will have a spooky story for the whole family. check the navigator when you first get on. On 3-night cruises, this is often the first night, and you want to make sure you don't miss it.
It's kind of a really cool story. We went and saw it. I will say this. I don't think it's really scary. I mean, know your kids, I guess. Some kids may be scared just seeing the tree, and they do turn the lights down, and then they have kind of a spooky story around the headless horseman. So it is a little spooky, but not over the top scary. I guess know your kids, but there was a lot of little kids in the audience that were having a good time with it. And it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. And we're going to try and catch it again this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll probably ask Blake if he wants to go and then decide whether Dave or I are going to be the ones to take him. Then there's going to be a Mickey's Mouse Parade. And this is always fun. It's a fun dance party with Mickey and friends on the main pool deck. They're all decked out in their Halloween finest, and you're invited to don your ghoulish best and join along. And then they also have, I guess this is part of the themed characters, themed character meet and greets. Mickey and the gang will have timed meet and greets throughout the ship where they'll be decked out in their Halloween finest. And then I was actually looking this up. I don't know why I missed it in your sheet to see if Nova's favorite, the Sanderson sisters, appearing by or via Minnie, Daisy, and Clarabelle Cow. And I mean, that's pretty cool from Hocus Pocus. Even I think that's kind of fun.
They had their own, if I remember right, they had their own kind of timed meet and greet, and it was packed.
Oh, I'm sure. Because
there was so many people in line for that.
Yeah, because it's not something that you get all the time.
And then I'll take the next one. You can touch on trick-or-treating a little bit, Christy. So Halloween activities, there's going to be Halloween activities. And I will say this, it's not, the one thing that we've noticed as far as the Halloween sailings go, especially when they combine it with Pirate Night, is that it tends to be just mostly one day that they celebrate Halloween versus the very Maritime cruises where they have stuff going on throughout the whole week. I'm not saying that your cruise may not have Halloween activities on different days, but a lot of them tend to be on the main day where they have trick-or-treating, and then they have the masquerade party and everything else. So watch out for some craft making, some Halloween themed trivia. That was actually really cool. They were talking about, and it wasn't just like Disney Halloween trivia. It was like, the what am I looking for the word?
History of Halloween.
Yeah, the history of Halloween and where it came from. And to that point, Christmas, the holiday themed trivia was that way as well. And then look for some themed game shows for the whole family. They usually play Nightmare Before Christmas in the Disney Theater, and that gives you a chance to meet Jack Skellington and Sally beforehand. Check the Navigator app. Lines can get long early to be able to meet those characters before the movie starts. And the last thing I'll throw out there is they haven't had this every sailing, but on our Dream sailing, they did, I think it was like 10 or 11:30 at night. They had up on the funnel vision this kind of ghost stories with an old ship captain. And it was really cool because it was like sort of misty and foggy out there up on the deck. And it's just a quick 20 or 30-minute little film up there. He tells a couple of different little ghost stories. But we had our hot chocolate, our cocoa, celebrating cocoa, and we're able to watch those, watch that fun show up on the funnel vision. So we really enjoyed that. But trick-or-treating, Christy, what can people expect for that?
So I think in the olden days, it used to be that anybody can like show up and get a bag to go trick-or-treating. And now they leave the bags in the stateroom that have children, and for the children only. So if you're an adult that wants to go trick-or-treating, you're going to need to ask if you can get a bag, because, or just hold out your hand, right? What are they going to say? No, they're not going to say no. Disney doesn't say no. So you'll have a bag. And in the past, trick-or-treating's been held throughout the 3rd and 4th floors on the ship, like in the main atrium area. Oh, throughout the 3rd and 4th floors. Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Yeah, it was kind of, they had different spots throughout the ship where you'd be able to go. I know the very first time we did it on the Dream, it was kind of around the ship a little bit. And now they kind of condensed it into basically the main atrium area.
Well, because people need to know where to go. And then last year, it was only on the pool deck, I believe.
Okay.
So you just have to figure out where it is located and go there. And it is usually very crowded. And sometimes unorganized, depending on how the crew does it. So just be prepared for it to be a little bit chaotic. And then check the Navigator app for when this occurs, because on the 3-night, we're already getting different reports from people that have called in on the Magic. So far, the report is that it's going to be the same night as Pirate Night. But on the Wish, on the 3 night, people that have called, Disney has said it's going to be on a different night. But frankly, until you're on the ship, until you open up the app, you really aren't going to know when it's going to be. So just know to pay attention to when it is.
And that's a good point. That's the way it was on the Wonder last year, where they had Halloween in the morning, and then they had trick or treating in the afternoon, and then they turned on the pirate music, and it was pirate night that night. So if you're really going on this and you really want to do Halloween up, maybe look for a 4 night cruise or sailing or longer, especially if you're not on the Wish, I guess, because they kind of condense it that way, and it's sort of, I don't know. It's a weird day where you have Halloween for half the day and then pirates for the second half.
Well, right, because people really like those activities. Like the people that dress up for Pirate Night and the people that dress up for Halloween want to do those things. And so when you're cramming it all in one place, but you also have 1,000 other activities to do, that's a lot to all put in one little tiny spot.
Exactly, especially when your next day is a port day, because they're going to usually have this on the sea day. Your next day is either a port day on a 3 night, or you're at Castaway, and so it really gets to be a very busy cruise. So, Christy, I know you're a big fan of merch. There's always popcorn buckets and things like that coming out for these different themed events. I guess in the past they've had a little bit more selection on board the ships. Lately, the merch has been kind of hit or miss, especially with the 25th celebration stuff. There was nothing in Europe, but yet on your Alaska cruise, it seemed like they had most stuff.
But then it arrived in Europe. So it's the 25th merch is there now.
I don't know.
So there you go, Disney.
There you go.
But yeah, they might have t-shirts, they might have lanyards, they might have pins, they might have popcorn buckets. They might not have any of those things.
Exactly. So we have enjoyed actually the Tervis cups and stuff like that we've been able to get for the very maritime sailings. We got one this year for Europe. I'd love to get one for Halloween on the High Seas.
Yeah. The one at Walt Disney World for Not So Scary is a little bit scary. Like the Tervis is a little bit, some of the merchandise this year is a little bit more on the
Edgy.
Yeah, front. So it'll be curious what they come out with on the cruise, if they come out with anything.
Okay, Christy, you're a travel agent. I'm going to throw this to you. I'm coming to book a cruise with Disney Cruise Line. Why would I want to go on one of these themed cruises? What are some of the pluses and minuses, would you say? Well, let's go with the pluses.
Well, it's just something a little different, right? Like if it's your first cruise, well then, and you love Halloween, then perfect. You get a little bonus. If you've been on multiple Disney cruises, then you get a little something different. So it's fun to see. I think, like maybe your family aside, Steve, that a lot of Disney families really like to see the characters in these different outfits and different looks. And you get to do that on these themed cruises, which to me is one of my favorite things. And usually on the Halloween cruise, they'll actually have a way to do a character photos. Well, they will always have them, but with the character photos with their Halloween costumes on. And sometimes they'll do it where there's multiple characters in one location, which makes it super fun. So make sure to look for that. So it's just like, it's something a little bit different, right? You still get all the other things you love about Disney Cruise Line, or that you would expect from Disney Cruise Line, but you get a little extra bonus entertainment or snacks or theming that is really just enjoyable to look at and experience, at least once for sure.
Definitely. And I will say this, you were right that generally I'm not too interested in the characters, but I am interested in the characters generally when like we're in Europe and they've got like different outfits on based on the country you're in. And I am all about Vampire Mickey. Love Vampire Mickey, although they make Donald look ridiculous with that when he's got that, what is it, that pumpkin around him or something.
That's my favorite costume. Donald with that pumpkin.
Oh my gosh, I feel sorry for him every time I see him, but I do love a good Vampire Mickey, and the holiday or the holiday Christmas theme outfits that they wear is fun as well. And to your point, Christy, if this is something that maybe you're just not into Halloween or something like that, they still will have all the touches of Disney Cruise Line that you'll be able to enjoy. Or if you're on a Marvel day at sea or something like that, and maybe you're just not into Marvel, but that's the cruise that fits into your family's traveling schedule that year, you can still have a lot of fun and not have to do all the Marvel theming.
And I think you can get like swooped up in the excitement of the event, because I've been on a Star Wars Day at Sea cruise. I saw Star Wars back in the 80s or whatever, right? Like 100 years ago, the original episodes. And it's still kind of cool to be on a Disney ship seeing Chewbacca walk in back when they have those again. And the same concept of Mickey with his vampire, right? And your Donald Pumpkin guy, that you could not be into the thing and still really enjoy the excitement of what is going on.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for doing this one with me today, Christy. I love Halloween on the High Seas and talking about it, and the Very Maritime Sailings as well, because that means that even though it's sad that summer's ending, we're moving into that holiday season, into the fall. I love the fall as the leaves start to change. It gets a little bit cooler out there. And who doesn't like the good holiday season and being able to spend time with family and friends?
Absolutely.
So any final thoughts about Halloween on the High Seas Sailings, Christy?
It's definitely something to experience. Remember that oftentimes when you first book these cruises, like when the cruises come out, they don't always announce that which sailings are going to be a Halloween or a maritime. You can make assumptions based on where they are on the calendar. So just keep that in mind. If it's one of those like over Labor Day or the week right after, you might actually not have a holiday sailing that you thought. So just keep that in mind. But in mid-September and all of October, you're having one. So even if they haven't announced it yet, you can be confident that it'll be there.
And any thoughts about, or any tips for anybody coming down to see the Halloween season at Walt Disney World? Anything stand out to you this year so far yet?
It's really hot. So don't bring a crazy full costume right now. It's still 91 degrees in the evening when these parties are starting, or even hotter. The hottest part of the day right now is like 4 and 5. And so keep that in mind when you're arriving at these parties with your costume. Definitely go for something a little bit cooler or bring a costume change or something.
And Christy, you're a travel agent, as I know most people know, but if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, if people would like to take advantage of your services and help them book their Halloween on the High Seas sailing, Christy, how can they get a hold of you?
They can reach me at Christy@packyourpixiedust.com. That is my email address. It's always in the show notes as well. My website is too, just packyourpixiedust.com. On there is a contact me page with a phone number and my email and a form you can fill out if you want. So you have lots of ways. There's no additional cost to use me as your travel agent. And so if you're not using one, I would be happy to help you plan a future Disney cruise.
I love it. Yeah, definitely give a shout out or give a reach out to Christy. And she's got so much information, not only on these sailings, and not only Disney Cruise Line, but Disney World, Disneyland, and other cruise lines as well. So thank you so much for doing this, Christy. It was fun.
Thank you, Steve.
And if you guys are looking for Christy while you're down in Walt Disney World, just look for her as you walk into Main Street in the Pumpkin Patch. Her and her family can be there, sitting there waiting to see the rise of Vampire Mickey as he comes out of the Pumpkin Patch to spook all the families this Halloween season.
Wow, Steve. Do you work on these things before the show?
No, I was just thinking about it as you're talking or giving your stuff. So. But in all honesty, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll be back soon with another edition of the DCL podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.